You're in the kitchen, yanking on a wooden drawer that won't slide. It sticks halfway, jerks, and everything inside rattles. Or maybe it's the bedroom door, the one that squeaks so loud it wakes the whole house when you get up in the night. Either way, you've had enough. So you go out to the garage and reach for that brightly colored can of spray, the one that cost you $8 or $9 at the hardware store. You give it a good soaking, wipe the greasy runoff with a paper towel, and for about a week it slides just fine. Then a month goes by, and that drawer sticks worse than it ever did. And the whole time, sitting right there on your bathroom sink, was a 50-cent bar of dry white soap that would have fixed it for good. It's been sitting there your whole life. Nobody ever told you what it was for. I'm Artie Sterling. Let me be straight with you right at the front, so you know whose workbench you're leaning on. I'm not a chemist, and I don't work for any hardware company. I taught high school shop class for 30 years, spent my life showing young folks how wood moves, how metal binds, and how to put a thing together so it stays together. So you might ask what business an old shop teacher has telling you to throw out the sprays you've been buying for decades. Here's my answer. When you spend 30 years watching kids force a stripped screw into hard oak, or unjam a drawer they've gummed up with grease, you start to see a pattern. Folks today try to solve every little problem by drowning it in some expensive chemical. And somewhere along the way, we forgot how the materials in our own homes actually behave. So let me give you the one picture that makes the rest of this plain. Get this, and you'll never buy a can of that spray for the inside of your house again. Wood is not dead. Wood is a sponge. It breathes. It swells a little in the summer damp and shrinks in the dry winter cold, moving all year long. And when two pieces of bare, unfinished wood rub together, like the runners under an old drawer, you get friction. That's your stick. Now watch what happens when you spray oil onto bare wood. That wood does what a sponge always does. It drinks it right in and holds it. But here's the trouble. That oil never dries. It just sits down in the grain, tacky and wet. And every speck of dust, every bit of pet hair, every crumb of grit that drifts by gets caught in it. Give it a few weeks and you haven't lubricated that drawer at all. You've packed the tracks with a thick, gritty sludge. Sandpaper made of dust. That's why it sticks worse than before. You built the very problem you were trying to fix. I have pulled apart drawers for folks up and down this street that they'd been oiling for years. And what comes off the runner isn't oil anymore. It's a black tarry paste, gritty as road grime, packed down hard in the corners of the track. They always swear they never spilled a thing in there, and they didn't. They built that mess themselves, one little squirt at a time, every spring, thinking they were helping. Now look at the old way. Look at that plain, dry bar of white soap. A bar of soap is nothing but hard, dry wax and fat. When you take a dry bar, not a liquid pump, not a fancy moisturizing beauty bar full of lotion, just the cheapest, hardest, plainest bar off the bottom shelf of the grocery store, and rub it right onto those wooden runners, it does not soak in. It can't. It lays down a thin, hard skin of dry slickness right there on the surface. It seals the pores instead of filling them, and because there's nothing wet about it, there's nothing for the dust to cling to. One good going over will outlast a whole shelf of those spray cans. You rub it on and forget about it for years, and once you see that all you're doing is laying down a dry, slick track, you start noticing everywhere else it helps. You've got a wooden window that fights you every time you try to raise it, swollen tight in its frame, so you're heaving on it with both hands like you're lifting a sack of feed. Run that dry bar of soap up and down the channels it rides in, both sides. Same idea as the drawer. That window will go up with one finger. Got a metal zipper on a heavy coat or a canvas tent that won't pull? Don't put oil on it. The oil will stain and rot the fabric right where the teeth are sewn in. Just rub that dry bar of soap up and down the teeth. It'll glide like it's brand new. You're cutting a board by hand and the saw keeps binding, grabbing halfway through the cut like it's caught in glue, and you're sawing twice as hard for half the progress. Rub the soap right along the flat of the blade before you start. That saw will run smooth and true, and you'll save your arm. Besides, every old carpenter I ever knew kept a stub of candle or a bar of soap right in his toolbox for exactly that. And trying to drive a long steel screw into hard maple or oak, and you're sure you're about to snap the head clean off. Drag the threads across your bar of soap first. That dry wax coats the metal, and the screw sinks in like it's going into warm butter. We did that every single day in my shop class. It's an old carpenter's trick, and it has never once failed me. I'll tell you a little story on that one. Years back, I had a boy in my class. Quiet kid, worked harder than any of them, building a cedar chest to give his mother for Christmas. Beautiful piece of work. And on the very last day, driving the last few screws down into that hard cedar lid, he was so afraid of splitting the wood after all those weeks that his hands were shaking. So I reached over to the sink at the back of the shop, handed him the old bar of soap sitting there, and told him to drag every screw across it before he set it. Not one of those screws split that wood. He gave his mother that chest, and far as I know, she still got it on the foot of her bed. A 50-cent bar of soap saved a whole month of that boy's work. I never forgot it, and I'd wager he didn't either. So why did nobody ever teach you this? Why do folks reach for a $10 can before they'd ever think of a 50-cent bar of soap? It's what happens when convenience takes the place of knowing. Once the hardware store started selling a bright can with a clever little red straw taped to the side, people quit asking what the stuff inside was actually doing to their wood. They just trusted the label. And let's be honest with each other. No company can build a big factory and pay for television commercials selling you one 50-cent bar of soap that lasts 10 years. There's no money in a permanent fix. There's steady money in a temporary one you have to buy again every spring. Nobody schemed to hide this from you. The old knowing just got quietly buried under a mountain of marketing because nobody ever profited by keeping it alive. Well, we're going to dig it back up right here on this channel. So here's what I'd ask of you. Tomorrow morning, take a slow walk through your house. Find that one drawer in the kitchen that always sticks, or that closet door with the squeaky hinge. Get a plain dry bar of soap out of the bathroom and rub it on the tracks or across the hinge pin. Then come down to the comments and tell me. Tell me if it glided shut, and tell me what old tricks your own father or grandfather used to keep things running around the house. Because I read everyone, and we can all learn from the folks who came before us. The next time we sit down together at this bench, I'll show you what to do when the screw in a door hinge just spins and won't bite. You don't need a bigger screw. You don't need wood filler. All you need is a wooden toothpick and a drop of glue, and it'll hold stronger than the day the house was built. I'll show you the whole of it, so go find your bar of soap. Quit soaking good wood in chemicals that only make it worse. Keep it simple, keep it cheap, and do it right the first time. The folks who built the furniture in this country knew that, and we're going to remember it together.